I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. You know it's bad when your former top attorney eviscerates the defenses that your current lawyers are floating. That's exactly what is happening. Donald Trump's current lawyers, John Lauro and Todd Blanche and others, are floating to this media a defense to special counsel Jack Smith's most recent criminal indictment in Washington, D.C. for Trump's criminal conduct relating to the 2020 election, as well as the January 6th insurrection. And these real frivolous defenses that I hear Lauro and other Trump lawyers talking about is, advice of counsel. It was Donald Trump's lawyer, John Eastman, who gave him this advice. So if anything, blame John Eastman. And also the other frivolous defense that Trump's lawyers are floating is that, it's just a free speech issue. You are going after Donald Trump for his First Amendment rights. Well, Bill Barr, of all people, who is now considered a rhino by MAGA Republicans, he's not Trump culty enough. Just think about that. Bill Barr, the Attorney General in the Trump administration who covered up all of these crimes for Donald Trump, he's now viewed as a Republican in name only, with MAGA Republicans saying, we're going to go rhino hunting, and they call Bill Barr a slob, and they call Bill Barr corrupt. MAGA Republicans going after Bill Barr. He's yours, MAGA Republicans, take him. But for MAGA Republicans, he's not corrupt enough. Well, Bill Barr went on CNN, and again, he eviscerated both of these purported defenses that Donald Trump's lawyers are floating. The first one, as Bill Barr explains, if Donald Trump were to assert advice of counsel, Trump would have to take the stand. If he's blaming his lawyer, Trump's current lawyers, who, by the way, you're going to get thrown under the bus soon because MAGA stands for make attorneys, get attorneys. But his current lawyers couldn't call to the witness stand someone who said, Donald Trump told me that he was relying on the advice of his lawyers. He couldn't do that. That would be hearsay and it would be inadmissible. So the only way you can blame your lawyers in a case like this is Trump would have to take the stand. Then he would be open to cross-examination by special counsel Jack Smith, which Trump is way too cowardly to ever do, and it wouldn't go well. So first, let's watch Bill Barr, of all people, eviscerate the advice of counsel defense by Donald Trump. Play this clip.
He's citing John Eastman as this constitutional scholar, but we know in the indictment, it says Trump was ignoring your advice, that of other senior Justice Department officials, Pat Cipollone, the White House counsel, the director of national intelligence. Is it a credible defense to say he was just listening to John Eastman?
I don't think that dog is going to hunt, as you say. First, as to people who had some knowledge of whether or not there was fraud, everyone was telling him that the election was not stolen by fraud. And then as to the issue of what he could do legally at that point, he went through all the lawyers, he wouldn't listen to all the lawyers in the department in various departments or the White House that had those responsibilities, or his campaign. He would search for a lawyer who would give him the advice he wanted. But I'm not even sure you would characterize what Eastman said as advice. It'd be interesting to see, but I interpret some of what he was saying essentially was, it's unclear here, and you can make this argument. I'm not saying the courts would accept it and so forth. And you act on that at your own hazard. Also, I don't think this defensive advice of counsel is going to go forward, because I think the president would have to get on the stand and subject himself to cross-examination in order to raise that, and he'd also have to waive attorney-client privilege.
And what would happen if he got on the stand?
I think it would not come out very well for him.
Do you think it would hurt him?
Oh, yes.
Why do you think that?
Well, because I think he'd be subject to very skilled cross-examination, and I doubt he remembers all the different versions of events he's given over the last few years.
Next, Bill Barr eviscerates the claim by Donald Trump's lawyers, this is just a free speech issue. Donald Trump, you're just criminalizing speech here and First Amendment. And as Bill Barr points out in this clip, paragraph 3 of the indictment, special counsel Jack Smith addresses the issue and says, look, yes, Donald Trump had a First Amendment right to even lie and mislead the American people knowingly about the election results. But once it becomes a criminal conspiracy to deprive Americans of their vote, when it becomes a criminal conspiracy to obstruct the counting of electoral votes, when it becomes a criminal conspiracy to have votes changed illegally from President Biden, then candidate Biden, to Donald Trump, it's not just a matter of free speech. You are now engaged in a criminal conspiracy to overthrow elections. And that is a crime, and that is very simple. Watch Bill Barr explain that.
But I mean, when you do look at the indictment, do you think it's something you would have brought?
I think, I don't know if I would have approved the indictment, but in the sense I may have exercised discretion and not gone forward with the case. I'm also concerned about having this case going on during the election and diverting people's attention from the issues in the election. I'm also worried about, what the impact is if there are acquittals during the campaign. But as a legal matter, I don't see a problem with the indictment. I think that it's not an abuse. The Department of Justice is not acting to weaponize the department by proceeding against the president for a conspiracy to subvert the electoral process.
Which is what Trump's attorneys are saying. And they're also saying that he was just exercising his First Amendment right here. Do you think that's a valid argument in your view?
No, I really don't think that's a valid argument because, as the indictment says, they're not attacking his First Amendment right. He can say whatever he wants. He can even lie. He can even tell people that the election was stolen when he knew better. But that does not protect you from entering into a conspiracy. All conspiracies involve speech, and all fraud involves speech. So, free speech doesn't give you the right to engage in a fraudulent conspiracy.
And then Bill Barr just taking appropriate jabs at Donald Trump here. Here, Bill Barr says, Donald Trump playing the victim. This isn't about victimization. Trump brought it upon himself. I find myself agreeing with Bill Barr. Here, play the clip.
Do you think this entire indictment for January 6th could have been avoided? Is this something of his own making?
Yeah, I don't think that, this is an issue of his victimization. I think he brought this on himself. This is one of the reasons I oppose him for the Republican nomination, because he has this penchant for engaging in these reckless acts that create these calamitous situations and then undercut the cause he is supposed to be leading. And this is a perfect example of it.
Bill Barr says, by the way, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Play the clip.
Now, what I think is important is the government has assumed the burden of proving that. The government, in their indictment, takes the position that he had actual knowledge that he had lost the election and the election wasn't stolen through fraud. And they're going to have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Which is a high bar, of course.
That's a high bar. Now, that leads me to believe that we're only seeing a tip of the iceberg on this.
You think
indictment.
Jack Smith has more?
Oh, yes. I would believe he has a lot more. And that's one of the things that impressed me about the indictment. It was very spare. And there were a lot of things he could have said in there. And I think there's a lot more to come. And I think they have a lot more evidence as to President Trump's state of mind.
You said you've come around to the idea that you do think he knew that he lost. Why have you come around to that?
Number one, comments from people like Bannon and Stone before the election, saying that he was going to claim it was stolen if he was falling behind on election night, and that was the plan of action. I find those statements very troubling. And then you see that he does that on election night, and then the evidence that has come out since that, the press reports and the indictment and his lack of curiosity as to what the actual facts were, just leaves me. That's my personal opinion. That's my personal opinion. We'll see if the government can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Bill Barr not saying here if he's spoken to Special Counsel Jack Smith. Sure sounds like he did. Play the clip.
We'll see if the government can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
You spoke to the January 6th Congressional Committee. Have you talked to Jack Smith's investigators?
I'm not going to get into that.
And here, Bill Barr criticizing the entire Republican Party in the House of Representatives, saying how these co-conspirators of Donald Trump in the superseding indictment, in the other indictment, the other case brought in the Southern District of Florida by Special Counsel Jack Smith for Donald Trump's unlawful, willful retention of national defense information at Mar-a-Lago, Waltine Nauta, and Carlos de Oliveira. Bill Barr says the same way these sycophants have now got themselves into criminal trouble, same thing with all the House Republicans. They're just like Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. Play this clip.
And it's also quite typical in this sense. You know, these two individuals, Nauta and Carlos, are dragged into this thing. Their lives turned upside down by Trump to pursue, this caper of his. And he leaves in his wake ruined lives like this, the people who went up to Capitol Hill, these individuals, many of the people who served him in government that got sucked into things. And he just leaves all this carnage in his wake.
Do you think he cares about that?
No, he doesn't care about that. Loyalty is a one-way street for him. And in many ways, I think these two people down in Mar-a-Lago represent many Republicans who feel that they have to man the ramparts and defend this guy no matter what he does and go along with him. And I think they have to be careful or they're going to end up as part of the carnage in his wake.
And folks, again, when I find myself saying, Bill Barr's got some good points there, put it this way, it's never a good sign for Donald Trump. And this case is before a real law and order judge, Judge Tanya Chutkin. She's already set a court date, August 28th, where she wants to set the trial. Trump's lawyers tried to do their delay thing. The magistrate judge says, you got 5 days, submit your brief. DOJ, you got 5 days to respond. Be ready for a trial date on August 28th. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Let's hit it this month. Go to MeidasTouch.com, the new best source of pro-democracy news in the United States. Have a great day. Hit subscribe.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.